Coming up on The World Today, Sicilian Mafia boss Giovanni Brusca, known by his alias People Slayer, is released from prison. Peru doubles its COVID-19 death toll after a government review. Plus, the African EU Commission calls for calm after members of the Pan-African Parliament scuffled during elections on Monday. Welcome to the program and thanks for joining us. We'll be moving on to the story on the global updates. The Johns Hopkins University data in Peru say more than the country's death toll more than doubled following a review, making it the country with the world's highest death rate per capita. The data shows the death toll is now more than 180,000, up from 69,342 for a country of about 33 million people. And the Prime Minister says the number was increased on the advice of Peruvian and international experts. Here's a global update. Peru has been among the hardest hit Latin America countries during the COVID-19 pandemic, with its hospitals overcrowded with patients and demand for oxygen outstripping availability. Experts had long warned that the true death toll was being undercounted in official statistics. The government says it is updating its death count in part because of a lack of testing that made it difficult to confirm whether a person had died to the virus or some other cause. India has reported 127,510 new COVID-19 cases over the past 24 hours to bring the country's total tally above 28.1 million, so says the Federal Health Ministry. The daily spike of new cases has been falling over the past couple of weeks, with the single-day registered cases falling to the lowest level in nearly 2 months. The country reported 2,797 deaths since Monday, bringing the total death toll to 331,895. Meanwhile, Indian doctors are now grappling to stem a rise in cases of mycomycosis, also known as black fungus, a fungal infection that causes blackening or discoloration over the nose, blurred or double vision, chest pain, breathing difficulties, and coughing of blood. It has been closely linked to diabetes and conditions that compromise the immune system. A new 2-week lockdown has come into force in Malaysia today as the Southeast Asian country battles its worst outbreak of the coronavirus since the start of the pandemic. Police set up roadblocks in the capital Kuala Lumpur and surrounding areas to screen for people travelling without permits as the new restrictions come into effect. Traffic also appears lighter in parts of the often congested capital. Finally, after a year of intense medical care, doctors and nurses celebrated the loosening of COVID-19 restrictions in Israel today with a concert in the lobby of Ichilov Hospital at Tel Aviv's Suraski Medical Center. Israeli musician Aviv Geffen performed, stopping at times to recognize the difficult work medical staff performed during the pandemic. A 5-month-old baby Arthur has become one of the first people to receive a life-changing £1.8 million gene therapy on Britain's National Health Service. Arthur suffers from spinal muscular atrophy, a disorder which causes progressive muscle weakness. Around 40 children per year are born with the most severe form of SMA, and untreated infants will rarely survive beyond the age of 2. But all thanks to Zolgensma gene therapy, their life expectancy can now increase up until at least 40 years of age. Arthur is unable to lift his head and he struggles to move his arms and legs, so some permanent damage has already been done. But doctors hope the one-off treatment will stop further deterioration and stabilize his condition. The world's most expensive medicine, the list price for Zolgensma is £1.795 million per patient. The NHS has negotiated a confidential discount for Arthur's treatment. And Sicilian Mafia boss Giovanni Brusca, whose grisly crimes, including having a child's body dissolved in acid, has been released from prison. Widely known as People's Slayer, Brusca has confessed his role in over 100 killings, including the assassination of Italy's top anti-mafia prosecutor Giovanni Falcone. But Brusca became an informant, helping prosecutors hunt down fellow mobsters. His release after 25 years in jail has outraged his victims' relatives, but he will be on parole for the next 4 years. A 64-year-old is a key figure within Cosa Nostra, the Sicilian mafia group. Back in 1992, he detonated the bomb that killed Italy's leading anti-mafia investigator, as we said earlier, Judge Giovanni Falcone, in one of the country's most infamous murder cases. Falcone's wife and 3 bodyguards were also killed in the attack when Brusca set off a ton of explosives under the road near Palermo as they were driving along. That attack followed 2 months later by the killing of Falcone's colleague, Paolo Borsellino. It rocked Italy and resulted in tough new anti-mafia laws in the country. Now in Uganda, daughter of the Transport Minister General Katumba Wamala has been killed alongside his driver from injuries sustained when a vehicle that they were riding in was attacked by gunmen. Well, the gunmen sprayed the vehicle with bullets from the sides and the front. The army says it has taken interest in a number of phone calls that seem to be related to the planning of the attempted assassination. General Wamala himself is receiving treatment for non-life-threatening injuries in hospital.
As I've said, our mission is a very challenging mission, but we are determined and we have the resolve to have the mission, to keep the mission afloat. We have done that for the last 3 years. We are not we have no intention of abandoning the Somali people, but we also want to appeal through you, Your Excellencies, and other people, to appeal to other players to get on board. We think for 3 years now we have been able to show that the mission is doable.
The organization we instructed, Your Excellency, was aimed at creating a robust but flexible force. And that force projection and posture would be achieved for effective deterrence. Our main effort will be directed towards deterrence of occurrence of hostilities to create a conducive environment to enable the government institutions in Somalia to function. And we think that that organization will enable us to achieve that objective.
This clips of General Katumba Wamala before the assassination attempt on his life earlier today. Meanwhile, the African Union Commission chairperson, Musa Faki Mahamat, has appealed to members of the Pan-African Parliament to recover their composure after they threw punches and threats at each other during Monday's session. There they are. He expressed his thoughts in a tweet today, saying the shocking scenes of violence at the Pan-African Parliament today, being yesterday, tarnished the image of the honourable institution. I appeal to all parliamentarians to recover their composure and comply with the rules and procedures of the institution. As it stands, the 4th ordinary session of the 5th Pan-African Parliament ended abruptly. Chaos erupted on the floor as lawmakers made yet another attempt at electing officials of the Bureau. 3 candidates from South Sudan, Mali and Zimbabwe are in the running for the presidency. But violence erupted on Monday, as we see there, when delegates from Southern Africa, referring to a letter from the African Union, insisted on rotation of the presidency to the south before any election can take place. Those in favor of elections going ahead say the issue of rotation still needs to be ratified before being adopted by the House. Today, the Southern African delegates insisted that the clerk should read the said letter before any business can continue. No middle ground was reached and the clerk adjourned the session until further notice. Our South Africa Bureau Chief, Betty Dibia, spoke with leaders of the Southern African delegation on the reason why they have been disrupting the proceedings.
The issue here is about rotation, which is a practice, a principle, and it's in the protocols of the union to which we belong as an organ. The dispute has been since 2014 elections for presidency, when Roger Nkodo of Cameroon decided to run for office. There was serious disputation that he was supposed to be disqualified because he comes from Central Africa, which already had a chance under rotation. But the whole thing was so acrimonious, a lot of noise just like this, and people didn't consider and say, okay, next time, this time, just ignore it. Then people considered and gave Roger a chance. In 2018, the matter came up on the floor, and the South African member of parliament called Santos moved the motion and said, no, but Roger, you are disqualified. And then again, our negotiations were that, okay, we adopt rotation now, but it will start next time, meaning today, or this time round. This time round, again, it is being resisted. So we were simply saying, if we had followed the rotation correctly, in 2015, Southern Africa would have come in. This time, then 2018, Northern Africa would have come in. We would have actually completed the cycle as of May 2021, or the 5th. So for now, we would have been saying we are starting from the beginning, which now the chance should have been for East Africa. But because we did not follow rotation, we are still behind by 6 years in terms of rotation, and we cannot extend it to 9 years and further. So the whole dispute was those that have been victims of the lack of respect have said enough is enough.
What we want here is firmness on the rotation principle, which is a resolution of the African Union. There are 5 regions in the country. The 3 regions have already led PAP. Now the outstanding regions is Southern and Northern. It is our turn. We have never led a PAP since its inception. And we are saying a rotational principle must be implemented. It was supposed to have been implemented in 2015, and there's been a goal shift all along. We are saying no rotation, no election. We're firm. There is a legal opinion as well that strengthens our demand here. That is all what we want.
It was Memorial Day in the United States on Monday, May 31st, to honor those who had died to honor the nation's military personnel who lost their lives in service. In Los Angeles, hundreds of flags appeared on graves throughout the National Cemetery, and in many cemeteries across the country, people did their best to honor those who gave their lives for Americans today. President Joe Biden paid his respects at the Arlington National Cemetery, where he delivered a speech defending America's imperfect democracy and calling for more work to deliver the promise of what he said remained the greatest experiment in world history.
Present or the soul of America is animated by the perennial battle between our worst instincts, which we've seen of late, and our better angels, between me first and we the people. These Americans weren't fighting for dictators. They were fighting for democracy. They weren't fighting to exclude or to enslave. They were fighting to build and broaden and liberate. Democracy is more than a form of government. It's a way of being. It's a way of seeing the world. Democracy means the rule of the people. The rule of the people. Not the rule of monarchs. Not the rule of the moneyed. Not the rule of the mighty. Our troops have fought this battle on fields around the world, but also the battle of our time. And the mission falls to each of us, each and every day. Democracy itself is in peril, here at home and around the world. What we do now, how we honor the memory of the fallen, will determine whether or not democracy will long endure.
We have more coming up on The World Today, including this. And athletes declaring their support for tennis star Naomi Osaka after she pulled out of the French Open, citing mental health issues. Join us again. So it was known as Memorial Day weekend this Saturday, Sunday and Monday in the United States, but also on Monday, ceremonies to remember victims of a massacre targeting Tulsa prosperous African-American community 100 years ago began yesterday. After a black man was accused of assaulting a white woman, an allegation that was never proven, white rioters gunned down blacks, looted homes and set fire to buildings block by block in the district of Greenwood, known also as Black Wall Street. More than 1,000 buildings were destroyed. An estimated 300 people were killed. Thousands were left homeless. An entire community that had been seen as a symbol of what black Americans could achieve was devastated. On Monday, Texas Democratic Representative Sheila Jackson Lee spoke and prayed at a ceremony to remember the unknown victims of the massacre.
I could not be there today because of a higher call.
To apologize, we couldn't listen to that soundbite, but many here in Nigeria would recall that Sunday and Monday this weekend gone by were far from usual, especially in the southeast, as many people stayed home to honor those who lost their lives in the civil war. As shops and businesses were shut, social activities halted, but security personnel were on hand to help maintain law and order. And more than 1 million people died in the war that lasted nearly 3 years. Many living who lost loved ones are yet to heal. Former Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Joe Keshi, joins us now. Ambassador, thank you for making time to be on the program today. And while we're talking about, the United States and other countries and how they're remembering their war dead, why is talking about the civil war here in Nigeria so offensive and important also in the country's history at the same time?
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, Marachi. Good evening. I think you've actually raised an important issue, which I believe has more to do with the way and manner in which the Civil War itself ended. Although General Gawan did say at that time that there were no permanent victor and nobody was vanquished, the truth still remains that we do not take into account the emotions, and we do not find a way to collectively address issues like that. And as such, we have kind of kept quiet and believe that it is not important. Whereas it is very important to remember not just the dead, but the sacrifices of even Nigerian soldiers who laid their lives, paid the supreme sacrifice for this nation to remain as one. I think to some people, they're just saying that to hear that people are celebrating or that people are commemorating the day is bad. No, it's not bad. It is part of our history. Good or bad, our history should be taught. But because we are not teaching history, because many people are not taking part in these ceremonies, and this is not the only event that we have failed to discuss, to celebrate or to discuss or to remember those who played significant roles in our lives. So I just think that, this is something that we all need to collectively begin to address. In a civil war that so many people died, you cannot expect that the families will not mourn, that the families will not remember this day. And the best the rest of us can do is to sympathize with them and be part of that healing process. And the rise of, again, Biafra, for example, over the years, is again because the people involved feel that the issues have not been properly addressed.
Indeed, Ambassador, but taking a cue now from the Tulsa massacre, that was a really dark moment in America's history. They call that the fall of Black Wall Street, but yet it is remembered today. And there are so many other moments in America's history that they're not proud of, but they're still talking about today. It's all part of the history itself of the United States. How do you think that has helped with integrating the nation today?
course, you could see that over time, it's not just the blacks that are discussing the massacre that took place over 100 years ago. You can actually see that even a number of white Americans are involved because they've now seen it as part of their history and something they shouldn't have done that their ancestors did in the past that was wrong. And so the healing process is to bring everybody, not just to commemorate that day, but to remember what has gone wrong in the past and what should be addressed to prevent such things from happening in the future. And I think this is a point that we need to make in this country. Number one, let's open the study of history in our universities, our schools. Days like this enable us to actually remember and talk about the things that have happened in the past. We have so many things that have happened in the past in this country, but we are so shy about discussing about them, maybe because it's in our DNA, not to be honest with ourselves. But you cannot but understand that these things help the healing process. It helps the unifying of the people of the country, because once you understand what has gone wrong in the past and why certain things happen, the chances are that you are going to be more sympathetic, even to the victims and to those involved. It's like June 12. Remember what we did with June 12? It took a long time before there was a kind of harmonization that, okay, the whole nation should celebrate June 12. But how do we celebrate June 12 since the last year? We've actually not mobilized people to understand the meaning of June 12, for example, or what this day means to those who were involved or who were killed during the Civil War and the families that were lost. So the healing process is part of the healing process that we need to put in place. There's nothing wrong. It is part of our history. And we should stop being shy and get up and begin to discuss things like this and then point out what we need to do to avoid such things from happening in the future. But the unifying factor, the unifying thing about it all is that it helps us to sympathize with one another. It shows the humanity in us when you also sympathize with someone who has lost loved ones.
Ambassador Keshi, it's been a pleasure speaking with you, and thank you for opening up this discussion with us today on The World Today. Our leading figures in tennis and sports rallied to support Naomi Osaka after the Women's World #2 withdrew from the French Open in a row about post-match media duties, saying she had been suffering from depression and anxiety. One of the biggest names in sport, Osaka, stunned the tennis world when she pulled out of the Grand Slam after being fined and threatened with expulsion for refusing to show up at an obligatory news conference on Sunday. A full-time Grand Slam champion had signaled her intention to skip her media duties to protect her mental well-being on social media and returned to Twitter on Monday to announce her withdrawal. While her original stance had earned little backing from her fellow professionals, many of whom saying that dealing with the media was all part of the job, her withdrawal triggered a wave of support from around the sporting world. Multiple Grand Slam winner Venus Williams posted on Instagram, "So proud of you, take care of yourself and see you back winning soon." Billie Jean King echoed comments from fellow women's tennis trailblazer Martina Navratilova about the importance of medical health, saying it is incredibly brave that Naomi Osaka has revealed her truth about her struggle with depression. That's what she said on social media. Discussion for another day. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Take care.